Hey, Harvey, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you very quickly and then give the stage to you to introduce Blueprint.
Cool.
So Harvey Hodd is the CEO and co-founder of Blueprint. They are reimagining how customers purchase and communicate with brands and provide services like purchasing, payment, booking, and one-on-one chat online and through any conventional channel. I'll hand it off to Harvey, who will help us understand how they're transforming commerce and the future of purchasing and communication online. Harry, the stage is yours.
Cool. Cheers, Stu. So hang on, I will share my screen here. So for a bit of background, Blueprint is a conversational commerce platform. So for the last 12 months, our team in London have been trying to reimagine and kind of dissect how customers purchase from brands and creators in terms of challenging legacy-based e-commerce journeys and payment mechanisms around that and conversational channels around that. So what Blueprint is in a distilled form is we enable purchasing, payment, booking, reviews, referrals, one-to-one chat support, and much more inside SMS, WhatsApp, Messenger, and any other conversational platform. So I'm going to take you through what we see as the future of purchasing and communication online, mostly focused on brand-led commerce and e-com, and how we are going to proliferate out across that. So as a kind of an overview, if you take a look at the current e-commerce journey, it hasn't really evolved over the last 20 or so years. So if you look at this idea of going to a website, we'll take this beauty brand on the right as an example. You find a product you're after, you go to some sort of data collection point, log in, which is kind of multifaceted normally. And then obviously there's data collection there, and then you purchase. This is kind of a bit jumpy. It's not only that, but it's really old school. It's full of friction. It's the exact same for a subscription. So even though a subscription was kind of really brought in to go up against this model. However, a subscription is kind of linear by nature, doesn't always fit the variable nature of products like health, beauty, wellness, those kind of CPG as a whole. So as kind of an overview, we believe that across purchasing, there's a load of pages involved. There's a ton of data collection that really shouldn't be there necessarily. And also it's impersonal because it's built for the masses as opposed to you as a set consumer. We think communication is almost identical to that. So there's this idea again where you're going to a website or a point of origin. Most likely it's this asynchronous email solution where there's some sort of downtime or re-authentication of order numbers or something to that end to serve you as a customer. And you go through that exact same model. There's multiple pages, there's friction points, and it's happening all over the place. It's fairly cumbersome. And this is kind of compounded from brand to brand. This is a model that's been in play for about 20 or so years now. So this is Amazon 1999, this general idea that there's an assortment of products categorized, account creation, et cetera, et cetera. And that's like fine for a commodity-based good or a marketplace like this. But if you're after kind of a deeper connection with that brand, there's some sort of emotional pull, you go back there again and again, that really doesn't do anymore. And that model is strange because everywhere else has been completely disrupted in terms of you look at these kind of the darlings of the industry, where they've taken something that was previously fairly fragmented and cumbersome and aggregated into a single channel to offer this immediacy, reduce the cognitive load and increase the speed as like an overriding theme. So our thinking is very much, or our thesis is that normally that would happen if you take all elements of purchasing and conversation like these, it would normally be aggregated into an app interface. So the WeChat model, right? But increasingly, this app fatigue is set in. It's increasingly expensive to download an app for a consumer, and then to have that proliferate out on brand to brand level is just not is a no-go ultimately. So where the real power is, if you can democratize this transactional capabilities or the functionality of a native app inside conversational interfaces that everybody is already in. So to give you an idea of what that could mean, and what we've been building is, you take that previous model of a website, a product, some sort of login or confirmation or data collection, and order confirmed, that can all just be distilled down into a simple conversation via fairly sophisticated natural language processing and transactional infrastructure. So you kind of take all the cognitive load, increase the speed dramatically, and it's an extremely easy solution as kind of a minimal element of what we're about. That can happen across any conversational channel at all. And if you look previously at this kind of fairly murky word of conversational commerce, it's normally communicational first in terms of blast messaging, redirects, checkout links, etc. But if you flip down its head and really start with transactions and like a checkout piece or payment infrastructure, then you can have that entire experience abstracted into any conversational channel, whether that's a purchase, a review, or support, anything really. Or any sort of marketing. So what that really means is, if you look here, there's both incredible utility for a consumer and potentially even more so for a merchant. So here it's as simple as just purchasing a product of peach sparkling water from a brand called Dudley. It could, for a consumer. It could also mean any sort of one-to-one communication seamlessly and instantly, or generally just a community or relationship base with that brand that you love and trust. On the flip side, for a merchant, the possibilities are essentially endless in terms of that could mean something like seamless upselling here straight after an order with a fairly segmented consumer set. It could mean a seamless review without any sort of data input or login or authentication, because again, you shouldn't need that. And potentially even more interesting is that customer ID that is being fired across all of these elements, which we'll get onto in a sec, can be natively built inside an email inbox. So it's less of a CTA and now more of a native purchase button or review button, or et cetera, et cetera. So taking you back kind of to that journey that we spoke about earlier, it's happening all over the place, different pages, different elements, again and again and again. If you apply this conversational commerce model or logic to that, not only can you remove huge steps of verification, but you can aggregate into a single channel. And what that really means for brands like beverage, wellness, beauty, home, food and beverage as well, is a huge increase in LTV, like dramatically, because you basically move the customer and the product or the brand directly next to each other without any sort of authentication. You don't need to go back to a point of origin like a website or an email CTA, etc. It also means AOV is drastically increased because now there's the ability for a merchant to speak directly to a consumer in the same channel they're purchasing from seamlessly. And then ultimately, you disrupt that entire customer experience. What that means as a complete overview is that customers stay longer, they order more, and they order faster because you've enabled them to do so, or you've given them the mechanisms to do so. How Blueprint does that and how we see this proliferating out is, again, that payment infrastructure first approach, where we embed as a checkout integration. At the moment, Shopify and Woo are WooCommerce are really the focus and a custom API. And what that does is when a consumer goes through this checkout for the first time, which they're doing, a million times a day anyway, is that there's framework underneath that creates a centralized customer ID. And that ID is populated with payment token, billing, shipping, product, purchasing data, etc. And that's what enables this seamless experience post-order. So as soon as you order, depending on what's set up, that consumer will get some sort of message saying order confirmed, here's tracking, etc. And then in any time they want to speak in that number, whether it's to an NLP bot or to a team member, they can now action, review, purchase, pay, book, etc. because of this customer ID. How that might look for a merchant rather, and how Blueprint looks is there's this complete transparent overview of what's going on pretty much all times. So whether that's being able to speak one-to-one with consumers throughout their entire journey, from the initial point that they step onto a website to however long their lifetime is with a product or creator, and then that's abstracted across every single e-com solution there is. So we see that there's integrated payment communication models everywhere, not just in e-com. So as an example, so something like sole operators or personal trainers. Currently, that whole experience happens via email or cash in hand or an invoice or SMS or a call, etc. It should be aggregated seamlessly into one channel. The same with some sort of like services, but vets or dentists, etc. And being able to seamlessly book, again, without this need to go back to a website to log in or to add data sets again. So the way that we see how this progresses in terms of a foundational level is that all of these things are in play already in terms of PSPs, delivery mechanisms, e-com solutions. We're essentially the tertiary layer or glue in between all of these elements, which is really important because it adds this functionality without really disrupting anything. And in terms of like a fundamental truth that we see playing out is that this idea of not only that payment and communication is completely separate and agnostic to each other, but this two-dimensional, faceless, asynchronous email solution is abundantly clear being disrupted with one-to-one communication. And this other side where there's siloed data sets, redata entry, logins, passwords, linear subscriptions, rigid subscriptions, it's being replaced almost completely with on-demand solutions, because we're seeing this already in many, many other areas of our lives. That's how we see the future of online purchasing and communication blurring and proliferating out. To give you an idea of where Blueprint is at the moment, we're a pre-launch startup. We have an extensive waitlist in the UK and US. We launch across the UK and US in August as an early access program. And if anyone wanted to hear any more, drop me a line.
Harvey, thank you for introducing us, and thank you for being here at so early of a point, an important point in your journey. Can you talk a little bit about in this like early access, there are certain types of products or brands that you feel would best be served by the platform?
Yeah, of course. So high velocity, variable use, low consideration products mostly as a whole. What that means is like health, wellness, beauty, food, home, and beverage are pretty much the hero categories because previously they would have maybe had a subscription, but that linearity of replenishment day to day, week to week just doesn't really fit the usage of the products. You have a drink when you want it, you have your protein shake when you want it, beauty treatments, etc., and it's completely variable.
Can you give me or give all of us sort of an example of, I think maybe using, and I don't know if they're a customer or just an example, but is it Huge? Is that the seltzer company that you showed there? Yeah, nice. Give me an example of like how I would interact with Huge through you post making a purchase.
Sure. Well, Blueprint is the underlying infrastructure there. So for a consumer, we're never kind of one-to-one. We essentially enable that functionality for a brand. But for you as a brand, once you purchase from Ugly, the seltzer, as soon as you purchase, you'll get a confirmation message on any channel that you've chosen or the brand has built. And it will then proliferate out. It might be tracking details, then a review, then prompt you maybe to reorder, because you can just say, hey, can I have some more? And that will seamlessly transact and order you either whatever you've asked for. Maybe it's the same case, maybe it's a different flavor. Ultimately enabling you to not go back to that site, not need to log in. And as soon as you think of that product, you can seamlessly purchase it.
Got it. Awesome. I realized you just called it Hugh, and that's actually the founder's name.
Yes, Hugh Thomas. I got you.
Yeah. Cool. So, and maybe a question about upselling, because I think that's an interesting angle. Talk about like how someone could use Blueprint to upsell.
Sure, of course. So again, once that customer has gone through an initial checkout and that customer ID is created, the opportunity is essentially limitless. So assuming you here have purchased the Triple Berry Ugly, you could be in various different segmented consumer sets based on your purchasing behavior. When Triple Berry is on offer, I'll drop you a line and you can say, hey, yeah, cool, I'd love to try that. And that will seamlessly purchase versus kind of normally sending you an email CTA where you have to log in, go to a different page, and then add your data. Or it could be a new product drop that will just drop you a message. Again, it's built for hyper relevancy and timeliness. So this might be to a very minute subset of consumers where it's really relevant. And then in any channel that you're in, and then you can reply back, yeah, cool, I'd like to try that. So the conversion as a result, because you've reduced all this friction, skyrockets.
Awesome. So if there are other questions from the audience, if you can jump over to this session to the left, it's the breakout session. And then at the end of our conference, we'll be soliciting interest from the 450 attendees or so with respect to connecting with you, and we'll make those kind of the connections that work for both sides. So look forward to that, and thank you, Harvey, for being here today and showing us Blueprint.
Cheers, Stu. Thank you very much, mate.
All right, have a nice day. See ya.
Bye bye.